The Atlanta Hawks are looking like they have a truly bright future, and since the All-Star break, they have gone 19-5 and had one of the craziest turnarounds of this NBA season. They went from a team that made some moves in the offseason to get Kristaps Porzingis and was coming into this season with their core players being Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, and Kristaps Porzingis, and mid-season pivoted away from that core, and it looks like it's been for the better, because since the All-Star break, as they've been on this roll, they've been top 10 both in offense and defense in the NBA, and a lot of this turnaround has to do with their budding all-star player Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson has blossomed into the real point forward version of himself that a lot of people thought that he had the potential to have. He was an all-star this year for the first time, averaging 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists, being a true point forward, running this Hawks offense through him as a real do-it-all player on both ends of the court, both scoring the ball, passing the ball, rebounding, and this team has been super fun to watch with Jalen Johnson leading the force. It feels like he's one of the best drivers in the NBA at getting to the basket, and not only just driving to the basket, but also driving and kicking, because it feels like a lot of his assists are used from driving to the basket and using his gravity to bring in the defense and kicking it out to the bunch of shooters that are on this team. And I'm not gonna lie, when the Trae Young trade first happened, I wasn't really the biggest fan of the trade. Now, don't get me wrong. I understood why they wanted to trade away Trae Young. I understand the limitations of Trae Young's game. With him being a small guard, not being able to defend literally anyone in the NBA, I understood why they wanted to get rid of Trae Young. But what I didn't understand was why they were in such a rush to get this Trae Young deal done and to get him out of Atlanta when they could have either traded him when his value was higher back in the day or waited a little longer for him to get his value back up and trade him for more assets, because all they got out of this trade was CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. But what trading away Trae Young has done for this team currently, it's kind of gone away from the Hawks being a Trae Young-led team, with Trae Young having the ball in his hands a lot, being the one taking majority of the shots, and also being the one who has the majority of the ball handling opportunities and responsibilities, to a team that now that even though it is led by Jalen Johnson is not as much of a ball-dominant player, and it allows this offense to be a lot more free-flowing, and a bunch of people have really benefited from this pivot that the Hawks made. And to me, the guy who has benefited the most is Nquille Alexander-Walker. Nquille right now seems to be the favorite for most improved player. He has been phenomenal this season, and a lot of that started post-Trae Young trade. He went from averaging 9 points per game last season to 20 this year, and one part that really nobody seems to be talking about is how elite of a three-point shooter he's been this year. He is 4th in the NBA in total threes made, and the only players who've made more than him are Con Knippel, LaMelo Ball, and Luka Doncic, who are like the most high-volume three-point shooters in the NBA. Nquille has been elite at shooting the three ball this year. Not only has he made a lot, but he's shooting at an elite percentage at 39.9%, and he adds such a good aspect to this team of three-point shooting, spacing, and ball handling, the ability to create his own shot and be that real secondary ball handler alongside Jalen Johnson. I remember when Nquille first came into the league and he was on the Pelicans, I liked Nquille. I thought that he had the potential to be like a real spark plug off of the bench and be one of those players that averages like 14 to 16 points per game off of the bench as one of the better six men in the NBA, and be a guy that wins a couple Six Man of the Year awards throughout his career, which is why I was always kind of confused when I saw him bouncing around to Utah, to the Timberwolves. He finally kind of caught his footing on the Timberwolves, and now we're seeing this version of him on the Hawks, and I can't lie. Even though I'm saying that I like Nquille, I thought he had some real potential to be a scoring punch off the bench, I never thought that we would see the day where Nquille Alexander-Walker was a 20-point scorer in the NBA. But we're here. We're here right now, and Nquille is one of the best parts of this team. And also, not just offensively, but defensively, Nquille has been very good. He's brought that energy that he really sort of honed in Minnesota, that energy on the defensive side of the ball. He's brought that with him to Atlanta, as well as the offensive jump that he's taken. And I think that him and Jalen Johnson beside each other is a really good pairing. And like I was saying earlier, when Trae Young left and the Hawks went away from a more ball-dominant style of one person having a lot of the responsibility, it opened up the door for a Jalen Johnson, a Nquille Alexander-Walker, even more guys. Like, they brought in CJ McCollum. He's been good for this team too at being able to slow the pace down, be that veteran presence that this team needs as a very young team. Now, when I first had my raw reaction to a Trae Young trade, that video is on this channel, by the way, but I was kind of assuming that they were just going to let this CJ McCollum contract expire this offseason and let him walk and be able to have that contract flexibility for the future of this team. But CJ has been good, and I think he's a really good fit on this team, and I think that he's probably going to get re-signed by the Hawks. Another aspect of this team is on the defensive side of the ball. They've been top 10 for majority of the season, but some of the main guys that bring that are Onyeka Okongwu and Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels is probably going to make another all-defensive team this season. He's tied for first in the NBA in steals right now, and he's still bringing that elite defensive pressure, and he seems like he's going to be a perennial all-defensive player. Throughout the first couple months of the season, Dyson was like literally the worst three-point shooter in the NBA. There was a portion of the season where his three-point percentage was literally 13%. Like halfway through the year, he was shooting 13% from three. But one thing that I want to point out is with how bad of a three-point shooter Dyson Daniels has been this season, that's been a lot of what people have talked about when it's come to Dyson Daniels. But his overall field goal percentage is above 50%. So even though his three-point shooting has been horrendous, he's been efficient from inside of the arc. And I already mentioned Onyeka Okongwu, but I really like him on this team because he's super versatile at the center position. And it felt like when Clint Capella was on this team for like the previous 5 seasons, that Onyeka was never going to get his opportunity to start and really show what he was capable of. And we're finally getting that. And I like the versatility that Onyeka brings because he's able to push the pace with this offense. When this team is on defense and they get a rebound, this team is running with Jalen Johnson pushing the pace. And I like the fact that Onyeka is quick enough on his feet to be able to push the pace with this offense. Obviously, this team traded away Kristaps Porzingis, and the main piece that they got in that trade was Jonathan Kuminga, who we all know the sort of soap opera that was going on with him on the Golden State Warriors. But since he's been here in Atlanta, he's had a lot of flashes where it's like, okay, I see why a lot of people were really, really high on Jonathan Kuminga. The one guy on this team that when everybody brings him up is pretty disappointed about him is Zaccharie Risacher. And I kind of feel for the guy. I honestly feel for Risacher because yes, he was the number 1 overall pick in 2024. When you're a number 1 overall pick, there is so much pressure on you to come in and to be impactful right away and also to make progressional leaps throughout your first couple seasons. Zaccharie Risacher just got a DNP coach's decision the other night. He was not dealing with an injury. There's nothing going on. Quinn Snyder just decided to not play Risacher. And I want to put it out there right now. I still believe in Risacher. Now, I don't believe that he's ever going to be a star caliber player. I don't think he's ever really going to be in any sort of all-star conversations or anything like that. But I think if Risacher gets traded to another team and he gets a change of scenery, a different place with a different front office and a different coach, I still think he has potential in the NBA to be a rangy wing that can shoot the 3-ball consistently. He still is shooting the 3-ball consistently, by the way. He's shooting like 37% this season. But I think he has the potential to be one of the premier 3-and-D players in the NBA. A guy who can shoot the 3, defend as a long and lengthy wing, and also be able to do a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. I think he can develop his game a little bit more to where if he was playing with a player that can set him up with open looks, he can not just knock down the 3, but also be able to put the ball on the floor with some one-dribble pull-ups, being able to drive to the basket. I still believe that Risacher can be an impactful player in the NBA. I don't think that he's a full-on bust. I just think that maybe the Hawks isn't the team that he is going to blossom on. Like maybe the Mavericks. I think that would be a good fit for a second team for Zaccharie Risacher. Let me know what you guys think about Risacher, actually. And so not only has this team been rolling lately, this team is very, very young. A lot of their core pieces are super young, and I think they have a really, really bright future, not just in this playoffs. I think that this is probably a team that can win a first-round series, possibly, depending on the matchup, can make it into the second round, I think they're probably going to lose in the second round, but I think this team can sneakily, depending on the matchup, might be able to win that second round series and sneak their way into the conference finals. But I wouldn't count on that because I think that for this team, next season is where we're really going to see this team take another step. Because I think that with one more year of this core of young players meshing together and gelling together, I think that going into next season with this newfound confidence in Jalen Johnson and Nquille, I think that this team's going to be a lot better next season. And also, the most underrated aspect of this team is that they own the Pelicans' first round pick. The Pelicans pick is going to be most likely a top 6 pick, and it has a huge chance to possibly jump up into that number 1, number 2, number 3 range. And if the Atlanta Hawks land a top 3 or 4 or top 5 pick, this team is going to be really good next season. Because imagine if this team added a Darren Peterson. Imagine if this team was able to add a Kingston Flemings or a Keaton Wagler at the guard position. This team looks like it's forming one of the best young cores in the NBA. And for those who don't know, the Hawks have the Pelicans draft pick because of the Derek Queen trade during last year's draft. So they have the Pelicans' unprotected first round pick, which is just scary. And maybe this team doesn't decide to bring back CJ McCollum. Maybe they let CJ McCollum's contract expire, and then they go into the offseason with cap space and flexibility to try and make another move to make this team even better. This team, because of the Trae Young trade, has put itself in a position where they can bring back CJ and they can run it back with possibly a top 5 draft pick added to this team, or they can let CJ walk and bring another player in who can add to this team, or they can push their chips into the table and try and make a big splash. If a star player becomes available, I could see the Hawks potentially pulling the trigger on that trade with the pool of assets that they have. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go down below and let me know what you think about this Atlanta Hawks team. Do you think that they're being overrated because of this recent stretch that they've been on? Do you think that they're going to get bounced in the first round? Do you think that Jalen Johnson is going to take this team and make some real noise in the playoffs? Let me know what you think about this team and also what they should do in the future. Should they trade away that Pelicans pick and get a really good player in return? Let me know. Make sure you guys hit the like button on this video. Go back and watch some of my other videos. I have a really good Hornets video that came out last week and another video about the biggest lie in the NBA, which is that there's no defense in the NBA. Go watch that video because there is defense in the NBA. And subscribe to Yanker Hoops. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out of here.